Good afternoon. Um, as Harry said, I work for System Integrator Yokogawa, but what I'll talk about today is from an OPAF standpoint and from a system integration standpoint, how we talk with different end users about OPA and OPAS. Yokogawa's been fortunate enough, and I've been fortunate enough to be part of it, to work with ExxonMobil in the OPA test bed up in Woodlands, Texas, and then also part of the Lighthouse project that Kelly and Dave talked about. We've learned a lot from that. We've also, in Yokogawa, been part of the OPAF forum since the beginning, so it gives us some perspective. One thrilling thing is that in the last couple of years, we've had a lot of interest from end users around the world. And every end user will have a slightly different story, slightly different business driver, and goal. But when you look at them, there's some commonality in here. And they'll ask questions. This is a composite of what we heard from many different end users and how they can benefit from OPAS. And the first questions that come out typically around brownfield. How can an OPAS system work with my existing system? And there are ways to interface it. How can I replace technology? One customer says that they want to be able to upgrade by replacement. So they want to take their existing systems when they hit end of life. They want to be able to then replace that with OPAS components. Others want to take an obsolescence issue off the table by saying, can we just replace systems that are costing us too much support? And all of us been in this industry, or companies probably back decades, so there's a lot of working systems out there, but components, individual components and systems do hit end of life, and there's obsolescence issues if you talk to end users. So that's one way that companies are asking about how to bring OPAS in. The other way in a brownfield environment is they want to say, how can we get more value out of our existing system? And one thing OPAS does is to bring in an information model, and we're using OPCUA as a basis for this from a process standpoint. How can I get this process data up to my digital twins faster? How can I feed the AI applications that we want to bring in with data at a higher rate and with more context? And these are things which I think in the long run, customers are more interested in creating new value and want to know how OPAS can be used for that. Obsolescence is always an issue, but creating new value is something that's going to get attention from their management quicker. It's going to add dollars to the bottom line quicker in end users. The other thing we hear from a lot of companies is in greenfield facilities, and especially if you look at things like the new energy alternatives, and carbon capture, and Kelly alluded to this a little bit. Companies looking at bringing in new technology, maybe it's a renewable space or something like that. They're saying, well, we should bring in a new control and new automation architecture. How can we flatten our networks? How can we increase cybersecurity confidence in our systems? And then how can we have a lower total cost of ownership over our new facilities and a new technology's lifespan? So there's a lot of interest in the new technologies, new process technologies. This is often on a longer time scale, but it's a huge topic of interest that we're receiving from companies. The OPAS, some of the other features of OPAS systems that interest them is the interoperability, interchangeability, the ability to bring in skids and pre-made modules from different companies, have them work together as one system. And again, we deal with new technologies and new construction methods. There's a lot of interest in that. So people are rethinking how they do things at that point. Yes, the blue and gold diagram, as we call it, is probably everyone has seen this already today. But I think this is, at this point, it's almost a logo for what OPAF does and with the OPAS standard. But when I show this and talk with the customers, again, whether we're talking about obsolescence, adding new value, or greenfield, what I like to stress and what really gets a conversation going is not discussing the pieces of this, which is really a very appliance, hardware-driven image. We're all used to what a controller is. We're used to what a host is. We're used to a communications network. And we have different names and really more modern IT functions in OPAF for that. But with OPAF, what we're really creating is a software-defined automation system. We decoupled the software from the hardware. And if you think about this, if you're old enough, I had a stereo system years ago where I would have a turntable, a receiver, a tuner, and speakers. Well, now I just have Sonos in my house, and I just decide what music to play from what source in the cloud or my computer in what room. And that's like a software-defined stereo system. I took all these big speakers and replaced them with things that people don't even see when they walk into the room. And so what we're doing with OPAF now, and part of it is the learning experience that we've been fortunate in Yokogawa to have with Exxon, going through the test bed and the Lighthouse system, is hardware is important. And our industry will always have specialized hardware, especially at the I/O level and things like that. But what we're seeing is hardware is a place to deploy software to. And some of the things that we've learned with the use of containers, as Dave DeVere mentioned, and of course virtual machines, which are widespread in the industry already, is the ability to move or orchestrate where it's going to run where, when, is invaluable. And it lets you then modify the system easier on the run, on the fly, when it's up and running. These things will add to that total cost of ownership improvement over time. So what I like to talk about is two categories of software functionality. One is process control, process management. Where are you running your function blocks, your PIDs, your algorithms? Where are you generating alarms? Where is your alarm system? How does it integrate into our corporate alarm, functionality and system? How does it apply with the standards we're already using? All these things it does. How do you manage the operator HMI? Well, one of the best compliments we had was in the test bed. We were showing our HMI on an OPAF system, and the customer said, "Well, this just looks like a DCS." Well, that's great. That's all we want. And that's what Dave said in the plant with the Lighthouse system. For the operator to the user, it looks like a DCS. It's what they're used to. It's what they're using. Historization is the same thing. We're going to provide quality of data, though, from OPCUA, their information model, on up to the historians. One of our biggest challenges is how we can get historians, commercially available ones, to collect this data more efficiently, instead of point by point by point, be able to get blocks of it for a function block or analog input, set points, things like that. But we can move this data around. We can move it at a faster rate. If we need a faster network, we can just increase and use faster switches and faster endpoints. We don't have to upgrade the whole system to do that. So again, by decoupling these things, is an example how you can, if you need to get faster collection of data to get value from an AI application, we can then go do that without upgrading, ripping out the whole system and replacing it. And of course, bringing in package systems. I had an engineer at an energy company tell me that every offshore platform has at least 50 packages, even if they try to minimize the number. Each one of those is a risk point. So how can you improve lowering the risk? And with OPA, we're working to support MTP, the more MTP package standard, and also by employing and deploying OPAF to those packages over time, we'll be able to then just connect them and build a system as things are hooked together. The other side, which is the system management, the process underpinning, or the system underpinning of the process management software, the use of virtualization and containers, the ability to bring in all types of information, not just from that the DCS typically has, but at the operating system of the controllers, the software, the application health, the switches, the network health, your virtualization health. We have the ability now to bring IT level information up to the system engineer, by role-based access, the process people can see it, so they can see if something's wrong in their view of it, and then we can direct the information to the right person at the right time to take care of that. And so there's a wealth of information coming up, and this will only prove invaluable more as we train different applications to analyze it and use that. Security management, it is built in. We had our security SME work with ExxonMobil's security SMEs, and it's gone through a rigorous examination. Nothing is ever probably good enough, but I think you'd be impressed with what's out there and what's in there, and it will only get better, it will only grow. So these are the things which, when I talk to end users, this is what gets their interest. It's not the ACP, it's not the DCN, it's not the OCF. It's what is the software going to do for me? Because this is really a software automation system. Now that I said all that, the ACP is important because it gives us the foundation to use. And if you look at the pictures and things that Dave has shown and Kelly has shown of the Lighthouse system, they have a very large, very capable ACP. Dave Hedge from Exxon, we will be talking about this some tomorrow. And this is, again, a proving point on what can be done with hyperconverged infrastructure. But not every system will be right for that size ACP. So when you think of an ACP, the best thing to do is just think out your DCS host. Do you want it smaller? Do you want it medium sized? Do you want it large? It's scalable. Whether you want the same technology, whether you want to reduce the amount of virtualization, which I think probably hurt TCO in the long run, but you can scale this platform up and down. And it's going to be fit for purpose for that application, for that site, for that system. Also, virtualization is not just for a host or an ACP. Virtualization can run in the DCN hardware. In fact, what we've done, this is a picture of the stacks we've used and the different platforms we've used in the Lighthouse system, which we're using with other companies too. We can use different suppliers' hardware. We can put the same software in each one, provided there's enough CPU and memory down there. And what you're going to see, I think, in future generations, those capabilities will grow at the I/O and the controller level to give us the capability to run everything down there. So we can have the I/O engines, as we call them in OPAF. We can have alarm engines down there, which is where the alarm's detected and the state is managed and information is sent out through the system. And also we can run function blocks there. But what we can also do is spread this functionality out around the system. So we're running virtualized controllers, the function blocks in the ACP and the Lighthouse system. We can run them in industrial PCs that we call DCNs. We can run them in more of a traditional appliance. And again, it's fit for purpose for that application. And there's no one right answer for everyone. So this again brings in power this software-based system that you can move your function blocks, you can move your containers around to be what's appropriate for that system at that time even. So that concludes my talk. Is again what we've heard from different end users, and this is the type of things where discussions go to when we talk with end users. We see a lot of interest. I think, Harry, as you show your charts of interest and things, I think it's going to increase. We're probably never a fast-moving industry compared to some, but I think there's a definite business drivers that the end users are seeing. I think the supplier community is working towards this because they also see benefits from their standpoint. So I think it's a win-win-win as we look around the ecosystem for all companies involved. If you're interested, we always need more people to work on the OPAF standard with OPAF. Here's the email address. Please, if you have any questions or any interest in joining, participating, please contact us through that email address. Thank you very much.